What is up, you guys? Twinlesstwin here. We're recording a league of Blue-Red Murktide post MH3. First, let me walk you through the deck. I've got Invert Polarity, I've got Blood Moons, I've got Dragon Rage, Channeler Murktide, but no Ragavan. Well, I kind of think Ragavan isn't that great right now, so we're going to go without it. The reasons I think that are there's lots of Bowmaster decks. There are lots of creatures, like the Boros energy decks, and even Nadu to an extent. So overall, just Ragavan not connecting as much, less of those decks like Rhinos, Living End, Tron, where Ragavan was an all-star. So Ragavan, turn one on the play, still very good, but overall not that impressive. Instead, you notice only 8 creatures in the deck. Well, I think Murktide Regent is phenomenal and very hard to kill right now, especially when you have, counter spell to help protect it. Look at a lot of the removal spells, and an 8/8 that can't be fatal pushed is just really, really strong. So I am counting my Murktide Regents to do extra work here. I also treat Blood Moon as a partial threat and Invert Polarity as a partial threat. So this is what we're going with. We're going to go ahead and get straight into the league. I am going to have a sideboard guide up on the Patreon very, very soon. So if you haven't already, check out the Merc Guide's Patreon as we get ready for this modern season. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, I think overall, talking a little bit about Murktide's positioning right now, it's really a reasonable deck to play. It's not as broken as Nadu. I will not bullshit you on that. Excuse my language. But Nadu has a chance of being banned, so I'm not sure I'd recommend buying into Nadu for this RCQ season. It might not last the whole season. And I think that Necro is a really reasonable matchup for Murktide. I mean, they have a ton of expensive payoffs, so very susceptible to counterspell. Jeskai is one that I'm working on a plan for, and if we face Jeskai, I'll show you what that plan might look like. But I have an idea. Okay, well, anyways, getting into this game, this hand seems like a keep to me. Double Murktide is obviously not ideal, but the DRC will help fuel it. We could even lead on a Surveil land here, potentially, instead of the DRC. Just in case, because if they show us black, we might want to wait on the DRC and not feed it into a Bowmaster. I think that's a good play. There's also, there's a chance that, like, if they play a Mana Dork turn 1, we'd want to really dig for a removal spell. So, yeah, Bloodstained Mire makes me hesitate to play out my DRC right away. Okay. Let's bin the Consider. Okay. Let's play DRC. Lightning Bolt. Against Bloodstained Mire, I think Lightning Bolt generally seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, waiting for them to fetch end step to get my bauble value. And maybe even Surveil. That'll give us some info about... Okay, so they Surveil a land, and then they're going to draw Bogart Trawler. Okay. So some type of... potentially mono black. But very likely mono black. They grief us. I assume they're going to take Bolt. Oh, they let that resolve. Interesting. Okay, well, I assume they're taking Iteration, but if they have Bowmasters, maybe that's what they're trying to set up. Okay, fair enough. There's not really anything we can do there, so we will lose the DRC. So against this Necro deck, it's pretty important to have Counterspell up. when you can, but and my plan here is kind of to expressive iteration into a fourth land and hold counterspell up that way. Bogart Trawler. I guess we knew about the Trawler. Okay, I actually take it back. I think that playing Murktide Regent there could have been pretty good because we knew about the Trawler already, and we were kind of forced to counterspell in that spot, which I don't love. I would have liked to have saved my counterspell for an actual payoff and kind of ignored the Trawler. I want to make this Murktide at least a 5/5 because of Soul Spike, but planning to follow up with another Murktide shortly here. Like if they do have Necro, the Murktide puts some pressure on their life total and potentially... Okay, well they have Grief, which I guess is a reason to make the Murktide just make it a 6/6. If this other Murktide goes away now. But instead they do nothing, so can't be too upset about that. Surveil away a Steam Vents. Draw a fetch land. I think I'll make them think about Counterspell, because this play definitely telegraphs I drew Counterspell. I mean, to a certain extent, their hand is going to be forced next turn because I have lethal on table. So this bluff isn't really that valuable, but playing the land is also not valuable, and the cards in graveyard probably aren't too valuable either. All right, so we pick up that game one. My guess is they probably had the One Ring stuck in hand. Something like that. So the Blood Moons are the easy cuts, and then I think I probably want to be cutting... Maybe, I don't know, Holy Heat is reasonable to cut. Consign to Memory is for the One Ring, but also just tags Grief. So when they evoke Grief, you can just consign Memory, the trigger. A lot of the time they're evoking Grief just to try to push through a Necrodominance. They won't have the scam, so you can just... You 1 mana counter Grief, and then save your counter spell for the actual Necrodominance itself. Unholy Heat is somewhat important to kill Shieldred, but the Bolt's going face, super relevant versus the One Ring Necro deck. I mean, their life total is quite literally related to how many cards they draw in a lot of situations, so super valuable there. This hand is really medium. Expressive Iteration is a tricky card to evaluate versus them because their life gain cards are so overwhelmingly, valuable that, or their card draw engines are so overwhelmingly valuable that 2-for-1ing them isn't always going to be the most effective. Like, we could cast 3 Expressive Iterations, but if they resolve Necro, doesn't matter. Alright, so in this spot they're scamming us, but because it's only a 3/2, the clock is a lot slower. So we can lead on a Surveil land. Bin that Scalding Tarn. Sure. Our hand is being ripped to shreds, but these double iterations are actually looking really good now instead of looking bad, so gonna fetch a Surveil land and then go for Expressive next turn. They're stuck on 1 land, so this is basically, oh, that's a really scary one. If they were to cast Necro here, okay, they're casting Necro. Okay, they drew, they stuck on 1 land and then they drew Phyrexian Tower. That is disgusting. Yeah, this game is not going to be good for us. It technically stops their Necro for a turn, but how valuable is that? I guess it also counters the One Ring. I think really what we want to do here is maybe look for some way to keep like Shieldred. They're going to draw a lot of cards here. Hope they don't find Soul Spikes. They pitched March. Okay. Really tough call for the opponent here on how much they're supposed to draw, honestly. Part of what makes this Necro deck so hard to play. They draw 10. Okay, there's one Soul Spike, and then they go to discard. Finding a counterspell is probably the most valuable here, so I think I want to... The Consign might also be fine. Like, I'm probably going to fire this off on a Grief, would be my guess, but also fine firing it off. Oh, never mind. It's getting Inquisition of Kozilect. Potentially. They found another Soul Spike, which is pretty unfortunate. It does kind of feel like there's a decent chance they have Bowmasters here, which is going to be important. Well, we basically have to Spell Snare it. The reason being, if we don't Spell Snare it, we're dead to a Soul Spike, and probably just going to die to the Bowmasters straight up, so hopefully they just... I guess they play Shieldred here. And then, how does this work? You may pay X life if you do draw X cards. I think we need to put ourselves dead to... We just need to put ourselves dead to the Soul Spike to Unholy Heat the Shieldred, because we're not winning if they get to draw, you know, that many cards. I mean, maybe they play around Bolt, but even still, if they draw 5 and gain 10, we're gonna be in a really tough spot to actually beat anything at that point. As is, I don't hate our spot, guys. I don't hate our spot at all. I kind of want to cast this expressive iteration to try to find another counter. But ultimately, with that land coming in tapped, okay, maybe I shouldn't have played the land right away. The question is it worth using this expressive iteration as an anticipate just to find another counter? Because they might have like a discard spell or a grief, and then yeah, I think I should. Oh, that's brutal. Do I play the Preordain? I guess so, because otherwise the Fawn does nothing. I don't even really want DRC here. Alright, I'm just gonna pass now. I don't know, that was tough. Now I'm like exposed to Bowmasters. I'm exposed to a lot more. Maybe I should have just held the iteration and hoped the counterspell was good enough. Like, Grief still gets me at this point, but now I'm just gonna die to random Bogart Trawlers. Ladies and gents, Bogart Trawler. Yeah, now I just died to a lot more. Found the Bolt, though. All right. The Bolt kills them if they take one more life point. I don't think we're going to get to that point, though. Because we're going to have to bolt this Bogart Trawler. Sweating this one. It's a close one. They bin the One Ring. That makes sense at such a low life total. Not very valuable. Upkeep, bolt your Bogart Trawler. Alright, they draw. The One Ring. I think it does almost nothing here. I'm gonna let it resolve. Like, they're going to get a couple extra cards off of it, but also probably die to it, because we're just gonna have double or triple counter spell up. They go to 1 life. Are they outside of their minds? Well, fetching an island could come up here. So they draw. This is crazy. All right, and we win the match. Let's go. They resolve Necro. We beat him anyways. Yeah, that was a good match. I think that kind of captures in essence why I like our matchup versus Necro. The counters are really strong. We have a pretty good way to interact with them. So overall, just a fan of that interaction, that matchup. A fan of our interaction in that matchup. For those of you just joining us, this is the deck we're playing with here. Only 8 threats, 8 creature threats, but packed full of Blood Moons and Invert Polarities as additional ways that we can kind of win the game from our opponent. Eldrazi Temple, turn 1. Going to hold up Spell Snare here. There's very few targets we can Spell Snare, but one of the really important ones is Chalice of the Void, and I don't want to lose to that. If we get Thought Not Seared, it is definitely a disappointment. Yep. Okay, well, there's Thought Not Seer. I guess I'll go get a Surveil Land. Don't need another Expressive Iteration, mostly looking for Unholy Heat here or other ways to remove this Thought Not Seer. Kozilek's Command on top. It's another pretty good one for the opponent. There's another Thought Not Seer. already starting to, look towards my sideboard for that 3 Consigned to Memory, 3 Obsidian Charmaw that I'll be boarding in for this matchup. A huge, huge upgrade in the matchup. The last card is, I don't really see this Bolt doing much for me, to be honest, so gonna get rid of it. Kind of traded in for a Surveil one, expecting that finding Unholy Heat is going to be super crucial in this next turn, basically, or I'm going to be in trouble. I guess starting off with an Expressive Iteration is best. We do have a Surveil end we can go get if we kind of need to go there. And go there we do need, probably. Really need to find Unholy Heat at this point. Or I guess Murktide Regent also pretty reasonable. So exiling some of our instants and sorceries, or just exiling our sorceries, it looks like, to both make Murktide Regent weaker, but also to take away Delirium here. Actually, does this take away Delirium? No. Maybe actually going after the Baubles and the DRC would have been the more valuable play to take away Unholy Heat as a really live draw. Regardless, DRC is not going to do the job. Basically need Unholy Heat. Ooh, Preordain. The only thing better than Unholy Heat is a Preordain. Man, I mean, never mind. I thought it was going to find us, the Unholy Heat, but it did not. Okay, well, it's always nice to have 6 cards that are just all pretty crushing cards to board in. Take out some of these pretty much dead cards. Probably 1 Fawn, also a reasonable cut, I think. Maybe not. I mean, Fawn is still pretty good against them when they have the One Ring. They might have Chalices. Chalice, actually, pretty weak when we have... Consigned to Memory doesn't get beat... Or Chalice... Consigned to Memory beats Chalice with Replicate, so we have only 13 cards that their Chalices get. So we can actually play through it pretty reasonably well. I do think the Fawns are reasonable. But we have so many counters with the Consigns, Counterspells, and Inverts that we probably are okay cutting a Chalice. Low power level hand for sure. Of all of the hands we could have, in this post-board game, But we do have Surveil lands and, you know, Fetch Bauble. A lot of ways to sculpt this hand so that it turns out okay. I think I keep. Grab an island right away and preordain. I don't think the DRCs are what we're looking for. We're looking for some of our, you know, stronger lock pieces. But a Murktide Regent that, you know, threatens to come pretty early is also pretty strong. Okay, passing. Alright, can't cast the Murktide this turn, so we'll pass back. And hopefully we can tag this Ugin's Labyrinth with our Obsidian Charmaw. Just like hoping to avoid a Thought-Knot Seer here. Seems like they always have the Thought-Knot Seer, but not this time. Iteration seems pretty good here. So if they have the Kozilek's command, we want to hit the Ugin's Labyrinth so that they're at least forced to return it to their hand. Or they just fire off the Kozilek's command now, which is okay with me. I mean, they get 2 Scions. We're about to Stone Rain them, so overall we're not in too bad a shape from this. Take out that Labyrinth. Okay, they have another Labyrinth. Thought-Knot Seer, interesting here. This Unholy Heat almost has Delirium, just needs an instant. Depending on their hand, they probably want to take either the Unholy Heat or the Expressive Iteration. But maybe the Murktide Regent is a problem for them. If they don't have an answer to Murktide, it's a pretty big problem. They take Fawn. That tells me they probably have the One Ring. Or they're playing Through the Breach. We didn't see red or green game 1, so I don't really think they're playing through the Breach. I think that they're trying to get a Fawn or a One Ring to resolve. Lead on Expressive here. Ooh. Finding some counter spells. Alright, Consign to Hand makes sense. And then I guess let's burn this Unholy Heat for now, because we don't have Delirium. Do we want to play this fetch land? I think so. If they just jam the One Ring, we'll just consign it for 1 and then get a Surveil land. And if they play something with a cast trigger, then we'll just fetch an island and replicate the consign. So then we lose out on the Surveil land immediately, but we can get back there eventually. Okay, so they're going for something with a cast trigger. Devourer of Destiny. We're going to consign that, and then we have Unholy Heat. That's the the power of consign. I guess the other option is just to ignore the Thought-Knot Seer, jam Murktide, and hold up Polarity. Seems pretty good. We won't be able to Unholy Heat this Thought-Knot Seer anytime soon if we do that, but that might just be okay. I shouldn't say anytime soon, because we do, have the Polarity, which will be an instant, and if we draw any sorcery, we end up being able to do that. But getting down this Murktide is going to put them on a much faster clock, and if they play, a big Eldrazi here, and we win the flip, I think we're just completely crushing. Sowing Myco Spawn with Kicker. Classic. Absolute classic. So this says exile the land. Okay, that's alright. We'll just hold up Invert Polarity. Actually, what does suck about this is all is dust, 50-50. If we win the flip, we actually are going to lose the game. So I didn't... Ooh. And you know what? I think for that reason, I will resolve this Blood Moon here. Instead of risking my fate against a All is Dust. This way they should really not be able to cast All is Dust this turn, at least. And if not this turn, which turn? The One Ring? Okay, I guess that answers the question. Now they could cast All is Dust. Okay, they didn't play a land, though. Redraw, counterspell, pass back. I'm not sure they have any outs at this point. Like, I guess, yeah, if they play another One Ring, we're going to counterspell. I'm waiting for them to play some crazy Eldrazi I've never seen before. But I think we're okay. Notably, like, their Eldrazi that cost Devoid mana cannot be played when you have Blood Moon. So that's a pretty important thing about Blood Moon, is it's shutting off a lot more of their deck than previous Tron, which had Karn the Great Creator. Now they're not playing Karn the Great Creator. so they have a lot less castable. They're not playing like Worm Coil Engine, all those spheres. So the Blood Moon actually has regained some value for sure. I wasn't sure, you know, did I want the Fawn that game? I don't know. Okay, I like this hand. This hand is nice. Especially nice when they don't have turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, a land is not nice. Let's bobble ourselves. Ooh, but Obsidian Charma. As Mengu would say, Atención. So it's tricky if we want to fetch a land or not yet. Because if we get a Surveil land, we don't have access to 2 islands. I'm going to just untap here for now, see what we draw. I think fetching an island is better, to be honest. Just to ensure that Blood Moon will be good. My plan here is kind of to counterspell something and then to play Charma. But play Charma on Preordain. I guess the Surveil land digging us for Consigned to Memory would be really nice. Ooh, but if they do nothing, this means they're going to play a big Kozilek's command, which is pretty annoying. Yeah, Kozilek's command is just gross. For 5. I think actually I should have just passed with Invert Polarity up. Then the plan is... Okay. Yeah, here's the Kozilek's command. Like, I certainly need to counter this. It's just too good. But now I'm completely exposed to whatever they have next turn. Bottom both. Draw fetch. Now, I guess I can go Charma Murktide this upcoming turn. I don't know what that's gonna do for me though. I'm probably just going to get something really bad here. Is gonna have. Oh, they have Karn. They do have Karn. What does Karn go get? The One Ring. Okay. I guess we're just gonna hit their power plant, and then they have a map too. Gross. So gross. This game is very bad for us. The Kozilek was really brutal. Like the 5 Scions, I don't think were really beatable if we play Charmaw there. So we had to hold up a counter for it. I guess maybe the move was to try to Polarity it, which would give us a ton of Scions. I don't really know what those Scions do for us. But we could, we also get to Scry or something. And then play Charmaw with Counterspell up. The One Ring plus Karn is kind of a nombo. If they're trying to do Ensnaring Bridge here, that won't work. So actually I'm curious what they're going to find here. I'm sure they have some great targets, to be sure, but Chalice. Chalice on what? A 1? Oh man, if they play Chalice on 1 here, I'd be overjoyed. Chalice on 2 makes probably more sense. We do have an Invert Polarity in hand though, so... I don't really see the value in this Chalice play. I think there had to have been a better find. Like Consign is another card I could have. I've already used a counterspell. So you're shutting off 3 counterspells. And then the expressive iterations, which are, they're somewhat valuable, but I don't care that much. Consign to memory. And Holy Heat. Okay. Ignoring Karn here. The plus won't do anything. They go down to 8. Draw a bunch of cards. Don't play Devourer. Is this all as dust? Are we gonna decide this game on a coin flip? I kind of want it to happen at this point. At this point, I kind of just want them to play all as dust so that we get the content of the Invert Polarity. If we win the flip, we lose the game. Okay, plus on the Talisman. Another Karn resolves. We'll counter whatever they get with the Karn so that they have to sink their mana into it. I guess if they have Cityscape Leveler, they could find that. But I have to imagine there's something worse than Cityscape Leveler in their hand. Like, all is dust instantly basically loses us the game, right? So if it's just Cityscape Leveler, I'm okay with that. If it's Haywire Might, I am certainly okay with that. Their plan probably being play the Might to blow up their own One Ring. and gain a life. I mean, the talisman costs them a life, so they gain 1. Going up to 9, but then they still die. So yeah, I don't know why Might was the find there quite yet. Haywire Might resolves. And then for 6 mana they played for 7 mana. Oh, for 6 mana they played Kozilek's Command, making some scions, drawing some cards. If we counter this, I think they should be dead. Oops. Current target creates. Alright. I will create the scions now. I am the Eldrazi player. Fear me. And then I will put this on the bottom, this on the bottom, this on top, this on top. I think the Consign to Memory just seals the game here, probably. But the Charma also will be nice. So I guess we shoot the talisman. They're just dead on board, right? I don't know what I'm missing, but if I'm missing something, it's with the talisman here. Okay. Okay, we win the match. Awesome. 2-0. I'll be right back as we queue for that third one. Thank you everyone for watching so far. I appreciate it. Welcome back to match number 3. On the play with an absolute banger hand. Blood Moon turn 3 on the play with 2 basic islands is just a combo of its own, honestly, against a lot of decks in this format. Even the decks that are supposedly resilient to Blood Moon just... Okay, I lied. Goblin Guide for the opponent, and Blood Moon probably isn't going to do too much work this game, to be honest. That's really unfortunate. Lightning Bolt, on the other hand, is a nice one to draw. And I actually take it back. Blood Moon will shut off probably a spell in their hand, maybe multiple, if they're not careful. So Blood Moon can certainly do its thing. And I will plan on, jamming it. Island actually a pretty reasonable draw. Top counter spell. I guess 3 islands does it do that much more for us than 2 islands does? Or should we save the life point? If they have going to 13, if they have Boros Charm is pretty relevant. I might just stay with 2 islands so that if they have Boros Charm, they need an extra burn spell. These types of calculations matter a lot against burn, like thinking about the increments they're going to deal you damage. If they slam Boros Charm here, staying at 10 versus 9 is a huge deal. So if they do have Boros Charm, we're going to look smart for doing this. If they don't, it probably didn't matter. Like, the extra island would have been nice, but not necessary. Lightning Helix, okay. Well, we don't look very smart then, but that's okay. Do we even want to attack here? I think part of me says no, like, if they do have a Goblin Guide, we want to stay back and just chump. Do we want to chump block? That might be total BS. Chump blocking is probably pretty bad. Alright, down to 8. Yeah, I should have just attacked. Whatever. I don't really think it mattered. Invert polarity on anything that moves. Most of their 2-mana spells cost 2 colors, so 1 the flip, send it upstairs. Riftbolt me? No, Riftbolt you. Oh, is this Exquisite Firecraft? Oh, just a Riftbolt, okay. Barbarian Ring, no. We have Blood Moon in play, saving us some life. This DRC desperately needs Delirium, but to the point of Pygonti, we don't have very many ways to get Delirium in our deck. Potentially a deck building flaw of this list is that we need more ways to turn on Delirium if we're going to cut down on creatures. Not having that extra island basically burns us for drawing Preordain. I don't really think we can... Maybe we just are supposed to Preordain, like fire it off. Hope that the Fawn keeps us alive. Yeah, I do really wish we had that island now. Happy with a bolt on top. They have a spike. We have Fawn. They skull crack us. Get rid of this preordain that we know we're not going to use. Yeah, they're not having the island burned us. Wow. I really didn't think that the third island would matter, but I thought Boros Tron was more likely to be the relevant factor there, but it just totally burned us. And they drew, I guess, a lot of their burn spells that did not cost white, unfortunately. So we don't have much to board in this matchup. I think actually even keeping in a Blood Moon is okay, but I guess add a Pyroclasm. Consigned to Memory can stop. Consigned to Memory stops them from like Rift Bolting us, I guess, but that's not really that consistent or great. I think the other cards are higher EV. Keeping this hand, but knowing we do need to find a removal spell pretty fast here to deal with a potential creature. If it's not, yeah, I'm going to be fetching a Surveil land in that case. And then topping a removal spell. Nice. Alright. We'll let the Swift Spirit deal 1 to us. And then Unholy Heat it. Do we want to respect a potential Sanctifier, Envec, or just Preordain? I think Preordain is pretty good here to give us a chance to resolve Murktide next turn. Yeah, well, we even have to keep the Expressives in. We're not really super set up with the sideboard configuration for burn. Well, maybe we were meant to bring in... this burn deck probably does have Flage now that I think about it, so we might have been supposed to bring in answers to Flage, like Hearse. Surgical seems so illegal, but Hearse could be reasonable. Just play a 5/5 and play this tapped. Shocking to hold up Spell Snare seems kind of counterproductive, like dealing ourselves 2 damage to hold up a counterspell for something that might deal us 4 damage. You know, it's not really that great. We'll probably have another chance to Spell Snare down the line. If we don't. Too bad, I guess. They play Ensnaring Bridge. Okay. I think we literally can't beat that. We boarded in a Pyroclasm? Neat. We just got Ensnaring Bridged. I guess we're trying to bolt them out. Well, that Fawn would have been good previously. If we'd gotten like an attack in with the Murktide, it would have been probably acceptable. Wow, the Ensnaring Bridge was really, really good here. I won't lie. I mean, we were probably big favorites if it wasn't the Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, Riftbolt you. Ooh. I don't think we can play this Blood Moon yet, but it is interesting because forcing them to, or, you know, maybe stranding them with white spells, I guess, could be one way we can attack through the Ensnaring Bridge, but we desperately need another island first. There's another island. So we have to fawn the Riftbolt and then hope they draw either a brick or a 2-mana card we can spell snare. And then we need to hope more stuff. Okay, we're going to assume they drew a white card. DRC can start attacking. Need to be careful not to give ourselves delirium. Yeah, Blood Moon was actually the only way to keep a card in their hand at this point. I think every other card they can just always play, but with Blood Moon out, they actually have some cards they literally cannot play. We're definitely getting lucky that they are drawing so many lands as well, which is a really bizarre game. Lava Spike. I'll invert the polarity of this Lava Spike. So if we bin this, we get Delirium, which is bad. So I guess we top it. Lost the flip. That's unfortunate. Winning that flip would have been really nice so that we could take some turns off of the clock. I mean, they have some creatures, right? Surely. Can't attack with that Monastery Swift Spear. Oh my god, it blocks my DRC! Now I need to find a removal spell. Okay, maybe I should have countered it. Is there like a way I could... An absolutely wild match going on here. I didn't think of the fact that Swiftspear blocks DRC. Preordain. Top counterspell. Top. Another ensnaring bridge, okay. It's fine. Well, we can't sacrifice the bubble, but we can still play it for the surveil to look for that bolt on top. Oh, and actually what we can do now is we can use the bolt to instance and use the... Wow, we have lethal. Who sees the lethal next turn? Skewer. Please don't kill us here. Please don't kill us here. Yes. Yes. We beat Ensnaring Bridge. Attack with DRC. Sack Bauble. They take 3. Someone call my mom. I'm gonna call my mom. Bolt their face. Boom! Let's go! Turn 17 win versus burn. Alright, so seeing those, maybe this consign to memory is interesting. Over Pyroclasm and Blood Moon. Yeah, Consign also counters Suspended Rift Bolt. Surely that's enough to bring it in. Actually might cut Iteration and keep a Blood Moon. I think the first Blood Moon's pretty decent. Do we just need to load up on these consigns? Cut another Iteration. Load up on consign because we really cannot beat Ensnaring Bridge otherwise. I think that's the truth. This hand is rather mediocre. I mean, we have to fetch Shock probably. All these removal spells could be really good if they're on a double creature draw. And the Murktide is good. I think we keep. But it's so close. It really is so close. I'm like kind of hoping that they have Monastery Swiftspear here. If these Unholy Heats do nothing, we're in a lot of trouble. Spire Bluff is a nice draw. Bobble ourselves. Fawn. I'll draw Fawn. Alright, now we need them to draw like creatures just one after the other. Like Goblin Guide here. Goblin Guide, attack us. We flip a land. Another Spire Bluff. Unholy Heat it. That's what we need here. Alright, watch this. Watch this. Okay, never mind. I was going to say watch this consigned to memory, but it's not in the cards. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think Burn playing a Surveillant doesn't surprise me. They're so good. The Surveillants are so good. Like, it is definitely slightly questionable just because, like, so many of Burn's cards do the same thing. But if you mill a land, I mean, the value is incalculable. Speaking of Surveil lands, let's Surveil. I mean, a pitcher's to Fawn, worst case. No, we're binning it. Better food for the Murktide. I should have bolted face there, actually. I meant to bolt face there. Shoot. Now I don't think I can play the Murktide that turn. OMG, it's Lightning Helix. The fact that they kept in Lightning Helix is surprising when we have invert polarity. It seems like a disaster. And Blood Moon also seems like a disaster. Sanctifier doesn't actually exile any of our graveyards, so Murktide is still really, really good here. Suspend a Rift Bolt. Show me that. I don't know what I was gonna ask them to show me, but it wasn't that. I'll tell you that much. Well, say goodbye to our graveyard. Here's a 5/5 or 6/6 Murktide. Bolt coming at face. Ideally, I can hardcast these Fawns. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Did our opponent just... Oh. Path to Exile. That's dirty. Did our opponent just board out their creatures? Because they might be a genius, if that's what they did. They might be an actual genius. Okay. This game is not looking good. Send this bolt upstairs now. Consign. Attack before. I think we need to attack once, at least. Probably just need to keep attacking and hope they draw, like, land, an Ensnaring Bridge, and Goblin Guide. Like, Goblin Guide would be a super awesome draw. The Ensnaring Bridges, also okay. Okay. Sometimes you just have to manifest it, by the way, guys. Like, just manifest the cards that you want them to draw. And they will, if you manifest it, it will come. Now, suspend Rift Bolt. We have no absolute, oh. I'm not fetching yet. I'll only fetch if I need to play Consign. Is their last card Searing Blaze? I think Searing Blaze makes some sense. I don't really know what else it would be. Oh my god, it's Lightning Helix. Alright, so we need to fade every single spell. Land! Land! Sanctifier! Sanctifier! No! Sanctifier! No! We beat Ensnaring Bridge on turn 17, and for what? We beat Ensnaring Bridge on turn 17 for what? Oh, that bolt would have been lethal. The turn before. Bolts them. They're at 3. Why does this happen to me? No clickbait 5-0 title. No clickbait 5-0 title. Now only real ones watch this league. Not even a 5-0. But if you're a real Murktide fan, you're still watching. So shout out you. How could you say that, Charles? How could you say it's fine? It's not fine. And now we're playing against Tron again. It doesn't get less fine than this, guys. But I'm not leaving. Trinisphere? Alright, I'm leaving. GG's, yo. TKS. Hopefully they take Counterspell, not my Invert Polarity. They took my Invert Polarity. Polarity on top. We're gonna rip Polarity and then rip a land. I think Polarity, I mean, we need the land, obviously, but Invert Polarity is one of our best cards otherwise, so that's why I'm keeping it there. If this is another TKS, I'll just go next. Okay. Fleshraker is fine, but we just didn't draw a land, so we're dead. Yeah, we're drawing a land. So since they showed us Fleshraker, maybe... Do we want these fawns? I think we still do. We don't want the snares. Maybe we shave an iteration, shave a bolt. Shave a fawn, shave another bolt. Like, the bolts get a little better when they have Fleshraker, but they're still not great. Like, you can still heat Fleshraker too. Yeah, between Matrix and Harsh Mentor, it's pretty close. I mean, the one big downside of Matrix is Boseiju hits it. but it's so game-winning if they don't have the Boseiju, whereas Harsh Mentor, they can kind of start to combo through, actually, which I don't love. Like, they can take, 5-6 looks before we actually are able to shut that down. So we'll play in it. It won't let me play my island. Play. Play, island. Play. Matter Reshaper. It's disgusting we have to counterspell this. Do we have to counterspell it? I think so. But that doesn't mean I'm not disgusted about it. Okay? It doesn't mean I'm not disgusted about it. Key question here is, do we play the island? I think yes. Because I think we're decent high likelihood to counterspell. And if we're counterspelling, we want to save our fetch land to fetch a Surveil after. Yeah, I think we want to counterspell that. Binning Fawn. Preordain, finding invert polarity. And finding invert polarity. Okay. That's pretty decent. Though most likely we're going to end up shuffling here, so not getting too excited about the second invert polarity. So of course they have the stupid Myco spawn and get Cavern of Souls. What an infuriating card. Kind of took a shot in the dark there, thinking the heat's not going to be that much more valuable down the line. Now the question is, do we... I think we just hold the polarity here and try to flip on something. 50% chance we do nothing, 50% chance we get their spell. I think they probably have the 7 mana Eldrazi, but... Nope, just another Myco spawn. You mother beep. Beep. Beep, beep, beep. Getting Blast Zone. Do they have nothing to put under the Ugin's Labyrinth? Or they choose to put nothing under the Ugin's Labyrinth for now? Maybe that means it's time to play the Murktide before things get dicey. Kozilek's Command. 1 to the bottom. I'm just going to run out my guys now and then hope that we can then follow up with Polarity the following turn. I wouldn't call myself super hopeful, but okay, I mean... If they're not following this up with a 7-mana guy to blow up my Murktide Regent, maybe I should be more hopeful than I am. Their hand might just be all air. Reality Smasher. Okay. I can't attack, so... Ooh, Consign is another nice pickup. So they're threatening 10. The thing is, the Blast Zone stops us from getting lethal next turn if we don't do this, so I think we're just priced in here to shipping. And then hoping that we're good with this Consign to Memory and Invert Polarity. They're not really close to Delirium here. Wait, what is Kindred Instant? Is that... Do they actually just have Delirium right now and I'm an idiot? But they don't have... Okay, wait a second. Wait a second. Do they have Delirium? Is that how this thing works? Kindred Instant? Is that like Tribal? Is Kindred the new... It is, isn't it? Yep, okay. Wait a second. Did I have any way to really beat that? We are learning this league, guys. We are learning. It's just really unfortunate. That match, all that it really came down to was our opponent had the land tutor guy twice when we had invert polarity up twice. So that was extremely costly in the end. Overall, I've been coming out ahead versus the Eldrazi deck. Gigantha companion could be Ruby Storm. It could also just be Boros energy. Okay, it's Boros energy. This will be a good match to test out. Let's see how things go. A Johnny, scariest follow-up here. Amtraptor also pretty good, but yeah, they'll get to mini Bloodbraid Elfus. And then have another Amtraptor on top. Iteration, not even what we're really looking for here at this point. I think we're looking mostly for maybe slamming Blood Moon is our way to win this game. Like, find a land. Removal spell also good. But like, mission, find an island, fetch it, Blood Moon them, hope they don't have their planes, and then they end up getting kind of screwed based on that. A Johnny draw is going to put us in a really tricky spot, though. And they can fetch a plains now. Operation Blood Moon is not a go. Okay, well, we can't let this Johnny transform, so we're taking. They're going to get the city's blessing on the Ocelot Pride. And our DRC has to start attacking. Okay, let's put an upkeep stop. We're going to shoot the Ajani and then play a Murktide Regent. No! No! I clicked through the upkeep stop. Well, I would have binned the Mishra's Bauble. Alright, well now we're dead, but let's see. If this top card was a land... It wasn't a land. Okay, we were going to die anyways. Well. So I like Consigned to Memory in this matchup. The reason being, we actually are... And then, do we need the hearses or the surgicals? We need one of them. The reason I like Consign to Memory is Murktide is one of our best cards, and their best answer is Static Prison, so Consign completely stops that. The counterspells are not that great. We have Snares and Polarities as our counters, but their deck is just super efficient. I guess you could also make the argument that the removal spells aren't that great because a lot of their cards are 2-for-1s, but... yeah, maybe that's a good argument. I guess the Pyroclasms are then in there for that reason. Alright, we're going to go with the hearses over the surgicals. I'm not actually sure which is definitively better against Flage, but we'll go with that for now. I guess I should just play the island there. Like, I'm pretty likely to fetch and counterspell almost anything here. I guess this is the reason I don't, though. So we didn't see black game 1. That doesn't mean they don't have it, and they could have Bowmasters here, but I'm going to take the opportunity to get a Surveil land. I think I'll bin the Preordain. I'd kind of like to have Invert Polarity up. Oh. With my thought being I'll Invert Polarity and then I'll Murktide with Counterspell up. They did really want me to draw Preordain though, so I drew it anyways. But yeah, just trying to plan ahead, like if I Invert Polarity here, then have Counterspell up the next turn, play a 6/6 Murktide, seems pretty good. The fact that they're not playing anything, I'm not sure what that tells me exactly, but it tells me something. Okay, Disruptor Flute. That is fine. I'm not sure what their plan is with that. Maybe they're naming Polarity here. Maybe they're naming Counterspell. It's probably going to get them some minor value, but it was their whole turn 2 and a card, so probably not enough value in my mind. If they name Murktide, I actually think you can delve as a way to pay for Disruptor Flute. So that's... we'll put that to the test, but I believe you can do that. And they're passing. Okay. Well, we don't need another Murktide Regent. Ooh, Expressive Iteration is nice, though. We're set up pretty nice to play a long game here, except against Flage. Stomp is okay. They top a card with the Surveil. And just play Bone Crusher Giant. I guess we invert polarity this, just use all our mana. I wouldn't mind a 4/3. I mean, it's pretty good. Bobble, actually a pretty nice draw there. Let's test this theory. Delve the whole graveyard. 7/7 Murktide only, but still only 2 mana. Nice Disruptor Flute, opponent. Nice Disruptor Flute. With Counterspell up and Consign to Memory now. Static Prison resolves, but we'll consign it to our memory. Flage. Okay, so they Flage, shoot the Bone Crusher, go up to 12. And they can't escape next turn, but we have... I should have expressed the iterations first. I got excited about having the counter spell, but now I'm just going to have this land do nothing. That was poor sequencing, but it's okay. I won't sweat it. I don't really think the land is going to matter that much. So if we let the Flage resolve, unfortunately we don't quite have lethal. So we do have to counterspell, and if they have a static prison, we need to iteration into something. But yeah, we're okay. We win. Maybe on the draw, do we want... No, I wonder if we want Surgical on the draw just because we might be more pressured to be spending our mana a lot and might not have time to get the hearse down. Crewing the hearse is also its own task. Like, we don't really crew hearse very well in this deck. So maybe the Surgicals are just... Well, the hearse doesn't cost us life, which is pretty relevant against their aggro deck. Yeah, I'm not really sure which is better. There are trade-offs. And specifically in this matchups, there are definite trade-offs. Alright, I guess we're keeping this and putting back Steam Vents. Pyroclasm, gonna have to do extra work here. But turn 1 Ocelot Pride is kind of exactly what we want to see. So is Expressive Iteration. Play 2 more Ocelot Prides. Come on. What's the worst that could happen? You'll get so many tokens. Or in a Johnny. Aw, that's not fun. Alright, well, I'll be patient. I don't need to remove this Ocelot Pride right away, and I think that if I do Pyroclasm here, giving them the, green light to play more creatures out, we're actually going to be in a bit of trouble. Or fall behind, I should say. They top. People have called Ocelot Pride the new Ragavan of MH3, but I will say I would Pyroclasm Ragavan every time there, but I am more than willing to take 6 damage from an Ocelot Pride if it means my opponent doesn't play any other creatures until, turn 4. Flage here. Yeah, they really do seem to be trying to play around Pyroclasm. And maybe I will Pyroclasm next turn, but... DRC. I think I'll put that one in the bin. I'm gonna pass again because I'm greedy. Actually, now that I think about it, the problem is now I need to be afraid of Flage coming back, so I probably should have just... I guess I could have iterationed there. I needed to do something, because I actually wanted to save this invert polarity for Flage. Yeah, I made a mistake. Man, these games are punishing too. Like, the mistake will probably end up being pretty costly. If I had iterationed and just found... I think like a removal spell, I'd be in good shape. Okay, the Shockland is good for me though. Drajagantha. Yeah, they're really respecting Pyroclasm, I guess. As soon as I play this Pyroclasm, all the creatures are going to come down. But the Spell Snare was a nice draw there to kind of offset that. Ooh, that's a Hasty Flage is what that represents. Or just a Hasty Gigantha. No respect for Counterspell. But I guess, I don't know, maybe it didn't matter that much. It's just exerting. Yeah, that's not... That's just the right play for our opponent to make in that spot. And it forces us to Expressive Iteration. And then, I guess, Bolt. And play a Murktide. As a 6/6. And hope that they can't remove it. Things are not looking good. You know, maybe we should have fired off that Pyroclasm a little earlier. Regrets were had. I can't even construct in my head, or I'm trying to construct in my head, what cards lead to me winning here. It's a hard puzzle to construct. If we had Spell Snare up, maybe something could have been good for us, but as is, I don't know, this doesn't look great. I guess maybe if they have a Galvanic Discharge, an extra land, even just Discharge is great here. Like, getting to cast Flage is so good. Maybe that's the line that they found eventually. We found Unlicensed Terse instead of the Surgical. Oh, well, I don't know what they were thinking about then. Oh, we were so dead. All right, GG's. So, a tough ending to that league. I have to say, I think my play could have been tighter there. I mean, the Pyroclasm should have happened a lot earlier, and things kind of unraveled from there. Like, I didn't use my mana for so many turns. I thought that I was favored from that position, but really it was probably just incorrect of me. And I got punished. Like, their draw was really not that strong there, and I think we were pretty close to pulling pretty far ahead. If we had just gone like Pyroclasm and then Iteration into something, and then Murktide, we're probably in really good shape. Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate everyone for tuning in. The one thing I do want to consider a little bit is, do I need to incorporate like a dress down or two as a way to help with delirium? Because I don't actually have delirium super easy in this list with only 8 creatures and 4 baubles, plus the, land instant sorcery, which is pretty easy. And then the Blood Moon also can be surveilled, I guess. But maybe a couple ways to make delirium a little bit better would be helpful. Otherwise, appreciate everyone watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep casting 8/8 dragons. They're really good, and I'll see you later.